Hello everyone, welcome to Sri Maata Education YouTube channel's online classes on English literature. So in this particular class, we are going to discuss 10 quick revision points for the Elizabethan Age. So 10 quick revision points for Elizabethan Age. So this is useful for UGC NET, SET, lecturer and assistant professor exam. Now let's begin the 10 quick revision points. These are very important revision points in the context of the exam. So the first point, the dawn of modern English drama. So the Elizabethan era represents the golden age of English drama. This everyone knows. The Elizabethan era, it represents the golden age of English drama, shifting from medieval morality and miracle plays to secular humanistic theatre. So the Elizabethan age is famous for that thing where there is a clear shift from medieval morality and miracle plays to secular humanistic theatre. So this evolution was accelerated by the construction of first permanent public playhouse. So the first permanent public playhouse was constructed during the Elizabethan period, starting with James Burbage, the Theatre 1576 and later the Globe 1599. So the permanent playhouses were constructed during the Elizabethan period, and the first one was the theatre like James Burbage's The Theatre. This was constructed in 1576 and later the Globe. This was published in 1599. So everyone knows only about the Globe that was constructed in 1599, but many are unaware about the theatre that was published in that was constructed in 1576, and it started with James Burbage's The Theatre 1576. So this is also very important. So during the Elizabethan period, there was a clear shift between the medieval morality and miracle plays to secular humanistic theatre, and permanent theatres, permanent playhouses were constructed during this period. And the second important point, the University Wits. So before Shakespeare dominated the stage, the playhouses, a group of university educated men, they actually revolutionized the theater. So the key figures from the University of Wit include Christopher Marlowe, Robert Greene, Thomas Nashe, John Lyly, Thomas Lodge, and George Peele. So all these were University Wits. Basically, the key figures of University Wits: Christopher Marlowe, Robert Greene, Thomas Nashe, John Lyly, Thomas Lodge, and Thomas Peele. So important note: Thomas Kidd is closely associated with them but did not attend university. Even Thomas Kidd, the revenge tragedy. So Thomas Kidd was associated to revenge tragedy. So he was also associated with the University of Wits, but he did not attend the university. That is why we are not including Thomas Kidd into the key figures of University of Wits. So all the University of Wits, they blended classical models with popular native appeal. So they actually blended the entire classical models with popular native appeal. And then we have Marlowe's mighty line. Marlowe's mighty line. So Christopher Marlowe, he was the one who established blank verse, unrhymed iambic pentameter. So he was the one who established blank verse, unrhymed iambic pentameter as the standard medium for English tragedy. And his work features Overreachers. His famous work was Overreachers, larger than life protagonists driven by infinite ambition, such as Dr. Foster. So his works feature Overreachers. So in his works, the protagonist is majorly the larger than life. They are always driven by infinite ambition. Even if you observe in Dr. Foster's always his infinite ambition. He always desires for knowledge. And in Tomberline, the protagonist desire is for political power, and in Jew of Malta, the protagonist desire is for wealth. So these are very important points. So in Overreachers, um, the protagonist is driven by infinite ambition, and even in Dr. Foster's, the desire is for knowledge, and then Tomberlane, the protagonist always desires for political power, and in the Jew of Malta, the protagonist always desires for wealth. So there is that infinite ambition in the writings of Christopher Marlowe. Blank verse, there is always that what you say that desire for infinite ambition. The protagonist is always driven by infinite ambition in Marlowe's plays, and he is very famous for English tragedy, revenge tragedy also. And then the revenge tragedy archetype. So Marlowe is very famous for English tragedy, whereas Thomas Kidd is famous for revenge tragedy. So Thomas Kit's The Spanish Tragedy, published in 1587, it established the formula for Elizabethan revenge tragedy. So this was the first revenge tragedy that was published in Elizabethan era. It's a high frequency exam question that you must remember on the core tropes of the play. The questions are usually asked on the core tropes of the play. That is a play within a play, a ghost seeking vengeance, real or feigned madness, and a bloody finale. So all these are the important tropes for revenge tragedy. So this is the sequence. It's a play within a play, ghost seeking vengeance, real or feigned madness, and a bloody finale. All these are important tropes of revenge tragedy of Thomas Quidd. So you need to remember these points. It served as the direct structural blueprint for Shakespeare's Hamlet. So Shakespeare Hamlet was direct influence on Thomas Quidd's revenge tragedy only. And then we have Spenser's epic and stanza invention. So Edmund Spenser, he was very famous for allegorical epic, The Fairy Queen. It was published between 1590 to 96, and it was written to celebrate Queen Elizabeth I. So Edmund Spenser's The Fairy Queen was written to celebrate Queen Elizabeth I. It represented as Gloriana and Belphoebe. So it was represented as Gloriana and Belphoebe. The Queen Elizabeth I celebration was represented as Gloriana and Belphoebe in the Fairy Queen. For this work, Spenser created Spenserian stanza. So for this particular work, the Fairy Queen, Spenser created something called Spenserian stanza. The Spenserian stanza consists of 9 lines, totaling 8 iambic pentameters. So Spenserian stanza, it consists of 9 lines, totaling 8 iambic pentameters. It is also followed by a final iambic hexameter. So there is a final iambic hexameter also in this, which is also called as alexandrine. Alexandrine is called as final iambic hexameter that you can see in Spenserian stanza, and the rhyming is ABA BBC BCC. So this is the rhyming of Spenserian stanza. And then the sonnet craze. So Sir Philip Sidney, he was the one who initiated the Elizabethan sonnet. So Philip Sidney was the one who initiated the Elizabethan sonnet, worked with Astrophel and Stella. With Astrophel and Stella, it was published in 1591 after the death of Philip Sidney. So he was the one who introduced Elizabethan sonnet. It was the first major English sonnet sequence. So Astrophel and Stella was the first major English sonnet sequence. This paved the way for Spenser's Amoreti. Amoreti, notable for its unique linking rhyme. So you will find a very unique linking rhyme in Spenser's Amoreti. In Spenser's Amoreti, you will find this unique linking rhyme, and Shakespeare's 154 sonnets addressed to the fair youth and the dark lady. So Shakespeare's 154 sonnets, Spenser's Amoreti, all these are influenced by the Philip Sidney's Elizabethan sonnet. All these are influenced by Philip Sidney's Elizabethan sonnet. The Spenser's Amoreti or Shakespeare's 154 sonnets, direct influence from Sir Philip Sidney's Elizabethan sonnet. And then Elizabethan prose fiction and pasticles. So early novel percusers blossomed during this area. So early novels were there. John Lyly Euphus, The Anatomy of Wit, 1578. It introduced Euphuism. So John Lyly was the one who was the father of Euphuism. So his major work, Euphus, The Anatomy of Wit, it was published in 1578. It's a highly ornate style using antithesis, alliteration, and classical similes. So in Euphuism, John Lyly, he majorly followed a style that uses antithesis, alliteration, and classical similes. And Thomas Lodge's pastoral romance, Rosalinid, served as the primary direct source for Shakespeare's As You Like It. So Thomas Lodge also came up with the similar style using antithesis, alliteration, and classical similes. So his famous romance work was Rosalinde, which served as a primary influence or primary direct source for Shakespeare's play As You Like It. So Shakespeare's As You Like It was a direct influence of Thomas Lodge's pastoral romance. Basically, so just this is one important. We'll go with other points also. You can just see these points once so that you will get one clear idea of this, and the pdf for these particular points you can find in the comments section. You can find in the description. We have provided the pdf also. So just a second, we are resuming in just 1 minute. You can meanwhile you can refer these points. So now let's get into eighth point, the picturesque and satire. So Thomas Nash is the unfortunate traveler. It was published in 1594. It was a picturesque satire. It is celebrated as the first full-length picturesque novel in English literature. So the Unfortunate Traveler by Thomas Nashe was the first full-length picturesque novel in English literature. It recounts the episodic, gritty, and often violent adventures of the rogue page Jack Wilton across Europe. So the Thomas Nash's The Unfortunate Traveler is all about the episodic, gritty, and often violent adventures of a rogue page, Jack Wilton, across Europe. So that's all about the Thomas Nash's The Unfortunate Traveler deals with. So this was the first full-length picturesque novel in English literature. And Shakespeare's early progress. So Shakespeare's early Elizabethan career, it consisted of his history plays. So Shakespeare's early Elizabethan writings or plays, they were majorly historical, like Henry IV trilogy, Richard III, and early comedies, The Comedy of Errors and Brutal Revenge Tragedy, Titus Andronicus. So all these were early Elizabethan plays of Shakespeare. He majorly focused on comedies and historical plays during this period. And then Robert Greene famously attacked him in 1592 as an abstract crow beautified with our feathers. So Robert Greene, he actually criticized Shakespeare as abstract crow in 1592. And the transition to Jacobean era, so the late Elizabethan period, it completely saw a shift from optimistic patriotic and romantic ideals to skeptical, dark, and analytical tones, paving the way for Jacobean drama. So the Elizabethan drama was more patriotic and romantic ideals romantic ideals, but it got transformed into skeptical, dark, and analytical tones. It paved the way for Jacobean drama and the rise of Ben Jonson's comedy of humors. In the Jacobean period only, Ben Jonson's comedy of humors came into existence, and John Donne's metaphysical poetry also came into existence. A detailed class on metaphysical poetry, Jacobean age or neoclassical age, modernism. So detailed classes were there. Detailed classes are there in the courses section. You can check them. And the core revision notes, critical literary innovations, the sonnet structures. So the Shakespeare sonnet consists of three quatrains and a concluding rhyme couplet above CD CD EF EF GG, and the Spenserian sonnet introduced an interlocking rhyme scheme above BC BC CD CD and EE. And the Mirror for Magistrates 1559, it's a Mirror for Magistrates is a highly influential collection of poems by various Tudor writers. The Tudor writers are Thomas Sackville and Baldwin. Few Tudor writers were Thomas Sackville and Baldwin. They depicted the fall of historical figures. It served as a massive thematic source book for Elizabethan historical drama and tragedy. So these are some points and chronology that you need to remember. 1561, Gorbudak, it's a Thomas Sackville and Thomas Norton were the authors. It's a very first English tragedy. So Gorbudak was the very first English tragedy. It was written in blank verse. And then 1579, The Shepherd's Calendar. It was written by Edmund Spenser. It's a pastoral poetic work containing 12 eclogues, one named for month of the year, and dedicated to Sir Philip Sidney. And then 1587, we have Tamerlane the Great. It was authored by Christopher Marlowe. It's a landmark play that popularized the blank verse on the public stage. It focuses on the Scythian shepherd turned conqueror. And in 1591, we have Astrophel and Stella by Sir Philip Sidney. It was the first major sonnet in English, contains 118 sonnets and 11 songs. So Astrophel and Stella contains 108 sonnets and 11 songs mapping courtly love and desire. And then we have Dr. Faustus in 1592 by Christopher Marlowe. It's a classical tragedy of damnable ambition. So it was a classical tragedy of damnable ambition, and German scholar sells his soul to Mephistopheles for 24 years of knowledge and power. So that's the theme of Dr. Faustus. And then in 1594, we have The Unfortunate Traveler by Thomas Nashe. It's a masterpiece of English prose fiction. It features in historical figures like Erasmus, Thomas More, and Martin Luther inside the story. And in 1598, we have Every Man in His Humor, authored by Ben Jonson. It introduced the comedy of humors where characters are governed by an excess of one bodily fluid, choler, melancholy, phlegm, and blood. And then we have critical non-fiction and literary criticism. Sir Philip Sidney's An Apology for Poetry. It was published in 1595. It was written actually in response to Stephen Gosse's puritanical work Attack on Theatre and the School of Abuse 1579. So An Apology for Poetry was written in response to St. Stephen Gosse's puritanical work on theatre, the School of Abuse, and Sidney famously argues that the poet nothing affirms and therefore never leads. So according to Sidney, Sir Philip Sidney, he argued that the poet nothing affirms and that therefore never leads, stating that poetry is superior to both history and philosophy. So poetry is actually superior to both history and philosophy because it teaches by delightful example. And then literary feuds and critical phases, War of the Deities, Poeto Mechania, Mechia, Poeto Mechia, the War of the Deities, a late Elizabethan literary feud between 1599 to 1601 involving Ben Jonson on one side and John Marston and Thomas Dekker on the other side. So the War of the Deities, it is between Ben Jonson and John Marston and Thomas Dekker. They used the public stage to mock and satire each other's style, personalities, and social background. And important tip for the exam, you need to keep a sharp eye out for source mapping questions. For example, you remember that Shakespeare borrowed heavily from his contemporaries. Lord's Rosalinde became As You Like It, Green's Pandesto became The Winter's Tale, and Plutarch Lives, translated by Thomas North, provided foundation for all the Roman plays of Shakespeare, including Julius Caesar, Antony, and Cleopatra. So that's all about it. So you can find the detailed PDF in the description, and detailed classes are also there on multiple topics that are discussed here. Detailed classes are there, so you can check in the courses section. Do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay tuned to Sri Maata Education for more and more English literature online classes. Thank you.